Chakshurumilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Dapitanyana Bhutale Swayam Rutakada
Mayam Dadati Svapadantikam
Vancha Papataribhyacha
Vipasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Jai Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Narayanam Namaskritya, Naram Cheva Narottamam, Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayat.
Nasa Praya Sabhadre
Shutyam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Hold on 1 second. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I will be reading. I'll start with reading the translation, and then go into the section that I'm going to be talking about. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, verse 34. I hear some background noise. I'm not sure what it is.
That was me. I'm sorry. Mataji, okay. Yeah. I will mute the phone immediately. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so again, 2:9:34. Vitritam yat pritiyeta na pritiyeta satmani tad vidyad atmano mayam yatta pasto yatta tamaha. Translation. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. And so, purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. We read the first 5 paragraphs earlier, so I'm going to start on the 6th paragraph. If you're on database 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So I'm beginning to read the 6th paragraph in the purport. The same man, however, is enlightened in the disciplic succession from Brahmaji, who is personally instructed by the Lord, or in the disciplic succession from Arjuna, who is personally instructed by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita. He accepts the statement of the Lord. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva pajantamam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Bhagavad Gita 10:8. The Lord is the original source of all emanations, and everything that is created, maintained, and annihilated exists by the energy of the Lord. The same man who knows this is actually learned, and therefore he becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord. Although the reflectory energy of the Lord displays the various illusions to the eyes of persons with a poor fund of knowledge, the same person knows clearly that the Lord can act even from far, far beyond our vision by his different energies, just as fire can diffuse heat and light from a distant place. In the medical science of the ancient sages, known as Ayurveda, there is definite acceptance of the Lord's supremacy in the following words. Jagadyanon anichasya chid anandaika rupina pumsasti prakriti nitya pratichat eva paspataha achetanapi chaitanya yogena paramatmana akarotispan akilam anikyam nata kakatrin. There is one supreme person who is the progenitor of the cosmic manifestation and whose energy acts as prakriti, or the material nature, dazzling like a reflection. By such illusory action of prakriti, even dead matter is caused to move by the cooperation of living energy of the Lord, and the material world appears like a dramatic performance to the ignorant eyes. The ignorant person, therefore, may even be a scientist or physiologist in the drama of prakriti, while the same person knows prakriti as the illusory energy of the Lord. By such a conclusion, as confirmed by Bhagavad Gita, it is clear that the living entities are also a display of the Lord's superior energy, Paraprakriti, just as the material world is the display of the Lord's inferior energy, Aparaprakriti. The superior energy of the Lord cannot be good as the Lord, although there is very little difference between the energy and the possessor of the energy, or the fire and the heat. Fire is possessed of heat, but heat is not fire. This simple thing is not understood by the man with a poor fund of knowledge, who falsely claims that the fire and heat are the same. This energy of the fire, namely heat, is explained here as a reflection and not directly fire. Therefore, the living energy represented by the living entities is the reflection of the Lord, and never the Lord himself. Being the reflection of the Lord, the existence of the living entity is dependent on the Supreme Lord, who is the original light. This material energy may be compared to darkness, as actually it is darkness, and the activities of the living entities in the darkness are reflections of the original light. The Lord should be understood by the context of this verse. Non-dependence of both the energies of the Lord is explained as Maya, or illusion. No one can make a solution of the darkness of ignorance simply by the reflection of light. Similarly, no one can come out of material existence simply by the reflected light of the common man. One has to receive the light from the original light itself. The reflection of sunlight in the darkness is unable to drive out the darkness, but the sunlight outside the reflection can drive out the darkness completely. In darkness, no one can see the things in a room. Therefore, a person in the dark is afraid of snakes and scorpions, although there may not be such things. But in the light, the things in the room can be clearly seen, and the fear of snakes and scorpions is at once removed. Therefore, one has to take shelter of the light of the Lord, as in the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam, and not the reflective personalities who have no touch with the Lord. No one should hear Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam from a person who does not believe in the existence of the Lord. Such a person is already doomed, and any association with such a doomed person makes the associator also doomed. According to the Padma Purana, within the material compass, there are innumerable material universes, and all of them are full of darkness. Any living being, beginning from the Brahmas, there are innumerable Brahmas and innumerable universes, to the insignificant ant, are all born in darkness, and they require factual light from the Lord to see him directly, just as the sun can be seen only by the direct light of the sun. No lamp or, pop up here, no lamp or man-made torchlight, however powerful it may be, can help one see the sun. The sun reveals itself. Therefore, the action of different energies of the Lord, or the personality of Godhead himself, can be realized by the light manifested by the causeless mercy of the Lord. The impersonalists say that God cannot be seen. God can be seen by the light of God and not by man-made speculation. Here, this light is specifically mentioned as Vidyat, which is an order by the Lord to Brahma. This direct order of the Lord is a manifestation of his internal energy, and this particular energy is the means of seeing the Lord face to face. Not only Brahma, but anyone who may be graced by the Lord to see such merciful, direct internal energy can also realize the personality of Godhead without any mental speculation. So back to the verse translation. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, it is without relation to me. If it is, again, O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection, which appears to be in darkness. So this is the second verse of the 4 verses, the Chatri Shlokas, that the Lord Sri Krishna is speaking to Lord Brahma. And from these 4 verses come the 18,000 verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And these are very important verses. So just as a brief summary of what's been happening in the past. So we've heard that Lord Brahma hears the Lord call out tapasya, tapasya, and he undergoes severe penance. And this penance took many, many years, and it was done for the pleasure of the Lord. And the Lord was pleased. And so we can call this bhakti, such as the same bhakti that, when the Lord says, offer to me a flower, offer to me a leaf, water, and do it with devotion, I will accept it. So the Lord was very pleased with Lord Brahma's austerity, his penance. And but this type and this intensity of bhakti is very rare. Typically in this material world, we wish ourselves to be the center of attention, the center of service. And, I think of a child, a baby, newly born, is forever, whatever it's in need of something, just starts crying, and everybody comes running and trying to serve the baby, trying to comfort the baby, feed the baby, change the baby, whatever it is, amuse the baby. And this could be likened to, us as jivas. We don't do it quite as I guess, what's the word, blatant as a baby does, but ultimately we non-devotees actually be the center of all that's going on. They want to be the center and want service done to them. So non-devotees and even devotees lack what's called as sambandha jnana. And sambandha jnana means understanding of our relationship to the Lord. So we are jivas, we're living entities, and it can be said that we're a reflection of Krishna. So Krishna is a person, and we are a person. He's independent, he's the supreme, but as living entities, although we're a person, we are not the supreme, and we do not act independently. We're dependent upon the Lord. And, most of us, still think that, we are more than what we are, an insignificant spark of the complete whole. We're an illusion, in other words. And this Sambandha Jnana says to get out of this reflected state, to return to our constitutional position as servant of the Lord, Krishna speaks this Bhagavad Gita, and specifically these 4 verses. And from these 4 verses, we learned that before this material world was manifest, and the present, and even after the dissolution, it is only Krishna that exists. Everything, everyone, it's only Krishna that exists. It's Krishna and Krishna's energy. So it was said, I believe in the purport, that just as with fire there's heat and light, Krishna's energy, this material world, and all the jivas within it, all comes from him. And after the dissolution of this material world, it is only Krishna that exists. And I believe that on Wednesday we heard from Mataji that said that just as a king who lives in a palace, all his servants, his paraphernalia, his his family, whatever, just as within a king's palace, and all those who intimately exist with him, Krishna in his abode, and all his paraphernalia and his intimate associates, and the gopis and the gopas, and his abode itself, that is all that is going to exist after the dissolution. So Krishna will continue to exist in all those that all that I just mentioned, in Goloka Vrindavan. So what is this Sambandha Jnana? This information is necessary for us to reestablish our position in relation to the Lord. Because we're in illusion, we imagine ourselves to be supreme. But because we are not supreme, and we're just acting as if we are, we encounter all kinds of difficulty in our life. We think ourselves to be independent. We think of ourselves as being powerful, but we're not. But before we reestablish our relationship with the Lord, we need to understand how much more powerful the Lord is than us. We need to know that the entire creation is simply coming from him. And this material creation we call home. It comes and it goes. It comes and it goes, but Krishna remains the same. He is unlike us. He is untouched by time. You know, we're crushed by time, and he continues to exist, and he does not, you know, age and die as our body does. He's eternally that beautiful blue boy tending to the cows, who plays on his flute and engages the gopis and the gopas in loving relation. And this is what is real. This is what is eternal. Krishna, his abode, those intimate gopis and gopas that are in his life. That's what's eternal. And everything else, his energy, you know, that is the cause of the material creation. That's all going to come and go, time after time, come and go, come and go. But Krishna remains the same. In this verse 34, Krishna says to Lord Brahma, if whatever we think to have value, if it is not in relation to me, the Lord, it has no reality. It is just illusion, a reflection of that which is him. On Wednesday, I think Mataji brought up the rope and the snake, or to accept a rope to be a snake is to be in illusion. Likewise, to accept the material manifestation, divorced from the Lord and his energy, is also illusion. To think that anything in this material world not to be produced of the Lord's energy is Maya, Mahamaya, the misconception of detachment. In Bhagavad Gita 10:8, Krishna tells Arjuna, I am the source of all the spiritual and the material worlds. Everything emanates from me. Krishna is everywhere in this material world, but when we look around, we don't see Krishna. We see things, all kinds of attractive things that we want for our own pleasure, you know, be it a home, beautiful home, be it nice car, land, money, all these things, nice husband, nice wife, whatever it is. Whatever it is that appears to have any value, be it any of those things, if we see that object as having a relationship to Krishna, then as Krishna says to Lord Brahma, you should know that this is my Maya. Oh, if any of those things that I mentioned, if they're not seen with the idea that they have a relationship with Krishna, then, like Krishna says to Lord Brahma, you should know that this is my Maya, my illusory energy, and making this appear valuable, although separated from me, it has no value. And so I was listening to His Grace Burjana Prabhu's lecture, and he mentioned like a finger on a hand. So the finger on a hand has lots of use, and it's instrumental, and it can do all kinds of things. But once you cut it off and it drops to the ground, there's no value in it. It had value when it was connected, but when it drops to the ground and is no longer connected, it has no value. So similarly, when we fail to connect an object to its origin, which is Krishna, although it is actually connected to Krishna, because everything is connected to Krishna, everything emanates from him, everything is connected to him. But if you fail to connect that in your, in your understanding of all that you see, all that you encounter, if you don't see that as being connected to Krishna, then that means that Krishna's Maya is present. So let me just say that again. Everything is connected to Krishna. Everything has a relationship to Krishna. But if I, the jiva, does not acknowledge that connection, then that's Maya that's stepping in. It is what it is, Krishna's energy. But if I'm in ignorance of this relationship, it is I who's in Maya. So all that there is, which is Krishna, his energy. I just want you to think to yourself, like when one goes camping, it's cold outside, and you think, oh, I need to light a campfire. And so why do you decide to light a campfire? Because you understand the relationship between the campfire and warmth, the heat that emanates from it. And so you have that understanding. And so what you do is you build that fire, and you approach it and you become warm. From that fire, you expect heat, because from fire comes heat. Likewise, from Krishna, all things come. So he is the source, he is the fire. And from him, everything comes. From the fire, the campfire, heat comes. If you have that understanding of this relationship, then you are, like Lord Shri Krishna says, you're not, if you don't have that understanding, you're in Maya. So, just continuing on with that, the fire is the source, the heat is its energy. The source and the energy are not the same. The heat comes from the fire, but it's not the fire. Krishna exists eternally in Goloka Vrindavan. He's independent. He's enjoying with the gopas and gopis. And us jivas here in this material world are his material energy. It says in the purport, this living energy represented by the living entities is a reflection of the Lord and can be compared to darkness. So I want you to think of sunlight. Think of the sunlight as Krishna, the source of everything. If you think of everything in relation to Krishna, the sunlight dispels all darkness. But if you do not see everything in relation to the Lord, it's like placing a mirror in the path of the sunlight. So like I said, if you do not see everything in relation to the Lord, it's like there's the sun in the sky, there's a room off to the side which is dark, and you take this mirror and you put it in the path of the sun and you reflect it into that dark room. What's going to happen? That by trying to reflect the sunlight, the origin of all light, the origin of the light, and trying to reflect it into this dark room, it is not going to light that room. The reflected light does not illuminate the dark room. It has been altered by the very sheer fact that you're taking it and trying to project it someplace. It's a distorted reflection of reality, in other words. The living entity who does not see everything in relation to the Lord is in darkness, in illusion, in Maya. And to come out of the darkness, this ignorance, one has to receive the light from the original source. In that dark room, in that state of ignorance, no one can see the things that are in that room. One fears snakes, scorpions, it says in the purport, in the darkness, you can't see anything. And you think, oh my gosh, I feel like, is that a scorpion that's rubbing against my foot? Oh my gosh, is that a snake that's like wrapping itself around me? You have fears. But once the sunlight penetrates into that dark room, your fear is vanquished, because and why is this fear vanquished? Because you can see what is and what is not. And one knows that Sri Krishna is the source of all, and his energies are at his command. So that fear disseminates it, because we know that everything comes from him, and he controls all his energy. Bhagavad Gita 10:8 says, again, everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their heart. And so how does one come to this perfected stage of engaging in devotional service and worshiping the Lord with all their heart? And so that I was just like thinking about that when I was preparing for class today. That's such a strong statement to say, all your heart, to worship the Lord with all of it. We're not talking about just, going through the motions of chanting. We're not talking about, reading, just glossing through, and once class is over, not thinking about it again. To serve the Lord with all your heart, you must take shelter of the Lord. And he comes in so many different ways, different forms. He comes in the form of like in the purport, it says Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. He comes in the bona fide spiritual master, comes in his holy name, comes from the teachings of the Acharyas. All of these sources speak to the same idea, the same relationship that is being referenced in this verse and the previous one, that the Lord is the source of all, and we as jivas, we're his energy. He's the enjoyer, we are the enjoyed. He is big, we are small. Just understanding that whole position, where we are in comparison to him, that he is so powerful, and we're such an insignificant spark. And those, and like especially in this verse, and those things that appear to have value, if they're not understood to be in relation to the Lord, they have no reality, and that is illusion. So any living entity, from great Brahma to the small ant, are all born in ignorance, and we all require the direct light from the Lord to see him directly, as did Lord Brahma. In the purport, it says the sun can only be seen from its own direct sunlight. Prabhupada says in the purport that, light, put a flashlight up or a torch up and try to locate the sun, and it's too insignificant. I mean, the sun, which is the source of, of lots of light. Well, we know Krishna is the source, but it's coming down to us from that. The sun only reveals itself, as said in the verse, and it's the mercy of the Lord that he reveals himself to his devotees. So Sri Krishna, he gives us a direct command, the command it's a direct order. That's what Prabhupada used, those words, to Lord Brahma. He says there, whatever appears to be of value, if it's without relation to the Lord, it's his illusory energy, the reflection which appears in darkness. Okay, we're to know this. I mean, he's specifically, saying this, and we're to act accordingly. We are to see everything in relation to the Lord, like our relationships with other devotees, our relationships with our family, um, everything that we use throughout the day, all his material energy, we're to see that in relation to the Lord, that is coming from him, that it's him in the form of his energy. And so again, I keep on going back to Bhagavad Gita 10:8. Those who know that he is the source of all, it says to serve the Lord, they're to serve the Lord with all their hearts. So this thing we call devotional service, this thing that I'm trying to do, you're trying to do, and we're trying to invest our heart into it. Again, so I'm repeating myself, it's not just mindlessly following a formula. Srila Prabhupada says, chant it, 16 rounds and follow the 4 rags, this and that. We're not to just mindlessly follow that formula. If I begin to understand that the Lord is the recipient of my actions, I'm doing this for his pleasure. Because I so desire to please the Lord, then these actions that I'm doing, they become my devotional service to him. It becomes his, because we hear that devotional service is his internal energy. So as I do this for the pleasure, and I more intensely begin to understand this relationship, as I do this for the Lord, this gives me passage to see the Lord face to face. So I just wanted to complete with, this is a complete process. I had mentioned this weeks ago. I was reading something else, and I think Shraddha Mataji also brought it up too, that this whole thing that we've been hearing about Lord Brahma and the Lord, it's this process of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. I just had read someplace, about an explanation of that. I was going, oh, Guy, that's what this whole thing is all about. So Sambandha being relationship. So understanding this relationship between the Lord and myself, understanding that everything is him, and that I'm to see everything in those eyes, that everything is either, his internal energy or his external energy. So that's this yana, this Sambandha yana. We have to have that understanding before we can actually serve the Lord, this abhideya, these activities. Before we have that understanding, it's not really it's definitely not pure devotional service. When one serves the Lord and serves with all their heart and has that understanding, then it becomes, devotional service, abhideya. So that abhideya meaning like the activities, what one does to reach the goal, and the goal is prayojana. And what is the goal? Why are we doing this? Why do we chant every day? Why do we read? Why do we, pray? All these types of things. Because ultimately we want prema. We want to come face to face with the Lord in the spiritual world, and we want to serve him. So that's what I have to say. And, please add, correct, whatever. That would be nice.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Such a wonderful class. It's so nice to hear. Although we have heard the same, kind of a similar things
Yes.
in previous classes, but it's really nectar again to hear same thing to the devotees. So
Yeah.
so yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. And I have to go now because I have a service in the temple. So all of you are very good Bhutan Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you, Manasi Ganga Mataji. That was really well done. And I just, it's just amazing that, it's just a shift of, it's just a shift in the way we approach all of our devotional service that can make it actually pure devotional service. It's the approach, it's the mood, it's, as you said, the knowledge and acting with that knowledge that this is not for my benefit or just to chant mindlessly, etc., that it's done for the Lord, and that's what makes it different. That's what really makes us qualified,
Yeah, I mean, it's all the difference, because if we're just doing it mindlessly, if we're just going through the program but not letting it transform ourselves, then
sure.
What's the point? What is that point? And I was just like, in my spiritual practice, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago, I was just going, I'm doing this, like, but I'm not feeling the transformation as I want to. And I just started saying, I'm going to start putting my heart into it. And that's why I kept on going back to this, because he wants us to put our heart into what we're doing. If not, then, it doesn't have potency. It's not going to please him. He's going to say, she's going through the motion, and I'll give her credit for that. But if we don't put our heart into it, it means nothing. It's not going to get us. It's not going to get us to the spiritual world. It might get us a better birth. It's not going to. So I'm really trying to make a change in myself.
Yeah, I can hear that. It's very nice, and I really appreciate hearing that. Very, very well, nicely explained. I really appreciated the class. So I hope, so I'm going to go and...
Okay, Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you for hearing.
I'm going to tell you. I forgot. It's no big deal. I may stay home and just stay in bed all day tomorrow. It just depends how I get up tomorrow. Each day that I sleep through all this, maybe it's a better